Perfect. We still got a good 50 minutes. Awesome. Sweet.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Cannabis Accounting Podcast. Today I have with me my friend Seibo Shen, the Chief Innovation Officer at 3Win. Very interesting guy. Comes from actually a pretty successful run with other companies going public and having exits. And so just a wealth of business knowledge, but also a wealth of product knowledge. And so I'll kick it over to you, Seibo, to introduce yourself to the people who might not know you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Seibo Shen. As Raymond just said, I am the Chief Innovation Officer of 3Win. My specialties are in creating herbal delivery systems. So some people call them vaporizers, some people call them sublimators, but I am someone that is really focused on making sure that when people utilize these plant medicines, they are getting the most effective and safest delivery methodology possible. And in my spare time, I love to meditate. I'm an executive coach and I love business. So I'm very happy to be on this show and thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. And yeah, speaking about kind of some of those early days, kind of can you tell us a little bit about just how you got into product design and kind of what was that transition into like the product side and even technology? Because I know that was your original start.
Yeah. So I studied political science and Asian American studies in college. So I don't have an engineering background, but in 1997, someone had told me about the concept of vaporization. So I just started tinkering around and started messing with just different off-the-shelf parts that I could find at Home Depot to start creating early stage vaporizers. And these things were made out of heat guns and shot glasses and things of that nature. So not as sophisticated as what we have today, but that is what I really love doing. So even though I was working in tech, when I would come home, it would just be tinkering with the garage vaporizers that I was building, and it really wasn't for any type of commercial opportunity. It was really that the vaporizers on the market that I saw, they just didn't hit hard enough. They didn't taste good. It kind of seemed like burnt popcorn, and ultimately. Like if you can't find something and you have the ability to build something, then that is what I did. I just decided like since I can't buy one, I'm going to make one and over the course of maybe 5 or 6 years, I just started improving each model and as you mentioned, I worked in tech and I worked for 5 companies that had successful exits. And while I was working there, that's when I discovered the most talented people, the engineers, the product designers, the marketers, they all loved cannabis. And so all of a sudden I realized like I wasn't just building this thing for myself. I was building a delivery system that kind of hoity-toity cannabis users would also really gravitate towards. So
Yeah.
that's how I got into the product side of things. But as with many things that I do, I don't have any formal training in it, but I do have a very curious mind and I do have a laptop so I could Google things. And you'd be amazed at what you could teach yourself just by having a high level of curiosity about something and then just trial and error, trial and error. And, if you keep track of your mistakes, you start learning from your mistakes, and all of a sudden you become an expert in the field.
No, that's awesome because it is people think they become experts by just figuring it all out and then it's they arrive to expertise. It's like no, it's just this process of iterate it's this iterative process of trying things, learning, getting better, trying things, learning. Like true experts are really just lifelong learners. But thinking through kind of yeah, like the 5 companies that you had worked with that had exits, just kind of looking at it from the business lens, because everybody, believe it or not, like that's usually whether they'll admit it or not, everybody either wants to exit or create a stable business for their kids. There's some type of event that happens at the end of these businesses. So I guess what would you say was like the commonality amongst there's just the owner, just the leaders of those 5 companies? Like how were they able to lead their companies to, a successful exit? Like was there because you've seen it with multiple different businesses. So like what was the commonality amongst them that you kind of kept seeing?
Yeah, I love this question. I love this question. So before I started my own company, I spoke with all the CEOs that I had worked for, and
Nice.
I asked them, what is your secret sauce? What should I do? What should I not do? And as you can imagine, there was like a very wide variety of answers that I got. But I would say the one most consistent piece of information that I got that I believe really helped me and is also very timely for the cannabis industry is they just told me, Sabo, just show up every day ready to work. Just show up every day ready to work. And it took me a while to figure out what they meant, but as I got deeper into my entrepreneurial career, I started noticing that, like, yeah, there's a lot of owner operators out there that kind of just gave up, or quiet quit, and they're just like showing
Yeah.
up because they raised a whole bunch of money and they're just not mentally there. So, the lesson that I learned was if you could show up every day with enthusiasm, even if you're not the smartest, even if you're not the most talented, even if you don't make the right decisions, if you keep showing up engaged with your job, you can outlast a lot of people. And, you met me already. Like I'm not a big dude, I weigh 130 pounds. I'm like the lightest guy in my jujitsu class. But what I could tell you is like that like perseverance is is essentially kind of like my whole game, which is like I just know that like I'm usually at a minimum 30 pounds lighter than the next lightest male that's 160 pounds. And they use a
Yeah.
lot of effort, they use a lot of dynamism, a lot of athleticism. And I can't compete horsepower for horsepower, but what I can do is try to outlast them. And once I start outlasting them and they start fatiguing, as they say, fatigue makes I can't remember what the word is. I think fatigue makes cowards out of all of us, right? And so I
Right.
just started realizing like if I could keep showing up and as they start to wilt and I can maintain, all of a sudden, like the advantage they had over me, I start catching up to them and I start exceeding them. And so for me, I do believe I'm a pretty talented individual, but I think what's more important is showing up every day, showing up with inspiration, showing up engaged with my work and ready to solve challenges versus just showing up to collect a paycheck or to check off the boxes of whatever it is I thought I needed to do that day.
No, I like that. And obviously, it's like everybody is looking for a secret sauce or an edge or, like what is it? And it's like some of business is just perseverance and letting time do its thing. And like time takes time. Um, we can't accelerate some things. And because business is so hard, like I do really agree with you. It's like I've seen it. Like I was actually just talking with somebody about this, and it's like I've seen people quit not because they've run out of money, but they like quit the business and then the business runs out of money. And it's kind of like you said, like quiet quitting. It's this unique thing that happens where it's like everybody assumes they're trying super, super hard, but the business still runs out of money and then they quit. And it's like, nah, in my experience, people tend to like, because life is so damn hard. It's like there's a number of reasons that are going to make somebody kind of quiet quit and then they lose sight of the business or stop caring, and then the inevitable does happen. But it's a and I guess that's like I burnout. It's like I used to not even believe burnout was real. I was like, nah, that's just a thing people talk about. It's not real. Just work harder. But like now that I've seen it, even in professional careers, it's like, oh no, people definitely burn out. It's not like they like can't figure it out. They just don't want to show up or not intentionally. So I guess that's kind of a question I have for you, like amongst those other companies and obviously yourself being in business at a high level for a number of years, like why do you think people burn out? And then what are some ways for people to kind of avoid that? Because I agree with you, business is a long game, and so you got to stay in the game to win.
Yeah. Oh man, such a beautiful question. Thank you for teeing this one up. I love this question. So, um, when I was a full-time executive coach, I did say like I specialize in professional burnouts or professional overachievers. And so
Okay.
I would say that the number one thing I tell them is if you expect something outside of you to change the way you feel inside of you, you will be chasing the dragon your entire life. $100 million exit, I'm happy. Okay, I got to be happier. $200 million exit. And then
Yeah.
it just keeps compounding bigger and bigger and bigger numbers. And so what I found is like when you're not in alignment with yourself, then whatever you do is going to burn you out. When you are in alignment with yourself, whatever you do, you're going to feel happy, And so being in alignment, and I know alignment is kind of this amorphous word that I'm using, but what I mean by alignment is are you doing things because you truly want to do them? Or are you doing things because you think you're going to get a feeling from doing that thing, or from other people respecting you, or from being on the cover of a newspaper? And all of those things do give you temporary dopamine and serotonin hits, but they're not
Sure.
long lasting. And so I would say that the anti burnout formula is to every 4 to 6 months, just ask yourself, am I doing what I love doing? Humans are very complex. I'm not the same person I was as a teenager, as a 20-year-old, as a 30-year-old, as a 40-year-old. Now that I'm 49, I could even say like I'm much different than when I was 48, when I met you last November. Like a lot of things have really changed my core values, the way I view certain things, the way I view like terpenes and cannabinoids. Like a lot of this changes. So I think it is very good to always just check in with yourself to see if you're still in alignment with what you're doing because we all evolve and grow. And what I mean by that
Yeah.
is like, yeah, what's the most challenging part about being in a marriage? It's that two people are evolving. And if you don't evolve together, you could wake up 20 years later and you're like, I don't even know who I'm sleeping next to. This isn't from personal experience. But
Just to clarify.
and yeah, and that's why to me it's not like is the industry tough? Is my boss hard? Do I have a good product to sell? It's am I in alignment with what I'm doing? Is what I'm doing nourishing my soul, or is what I'm doing making me feel like other people are gonna respect me? And if it's always the answer of like other people are gonna respect me, other people are gonna love me, other people are going to idolize me, then those are answers that will definitely lead to burnout. And now if the answer is I just like doing it because it makes me happy and it excites me, then you're in alignment.
Okay. No, that makes so much sense too. And it's like it's like common sense. It's like, well, if you're not happy, like it doesn't really matter what you do. But I know from experience and just everybody does kind of live that way though, a little bit, where it's like, okay, like this will make me feel better. And it's like, because I kind of think of it when people like switch industries a lot, and it's like, dude, every industry has issues. Because I was an auditor, so I was able to see behind these companies, like I got under the hood of a lot of different companies and a lot of different industries, and so it's like none of them were perfect. They all have nuanced issues, and so it's like this unique thing where people think like the next industry or the next business is going to make me feel good, and it's like I don't think so. Or the next product launch, and it's like, no, it seems cliche, but it's cliche because it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like what I'm describing afflicts probably over 99% of the world, in that we all expect more accomplishments, more money, more achievement, more assets, bigger portfolio means more happiness. And, like that's not like an illogical thing to think because when we perform better, when we're younger, we get straight A's. What happens? Our parents, give us more attention. They may even buy us something, right? So it's very normal to think like when you do things that impress other people, you will receive more things. So I don't want people listening to this to think, oh, wow, dude, I'm one of those people that needs like external adulation
Validation.
to confirm, yeah, who I am. But, the flip side is as you get older, you start realizing things about life and about what makes true happiness. And, if I go back to what we talked about those five exits, like the smallest one was 161 million. The largest was 3.4 billion. And you would imagine with these large 9, 10 figure numbers, like I would be around a lot of happy people. And the truth was, when I looked around, they weren't. So like I had firsthand experience that money doesn't make you happy. And if anything, I would say that, Tony Robbins has a quote, the ultimate failure is success without fulfillment. And so that immediately made sense to me. And I'm also very conscious that, if you haven't achieved or accomplished anything in your life, probably hearing what I'm saying, you're like, well, okay, maybe for you that's cool, but I have yet to achieve something. And that's the truth. You go achieve something first, before you start thinking like this. But as you get older, as you get mature, if you want more ease, more grace, more human being versus human doer, then shifting your perspective from my job makes me happy to I make myself happy and I'm going to bring that happiness into my job and then have that like higher frequential vibration of happiness, like just kind of like a viral post, like misery loves company, right? If you have like a cancer in your company, like that's gonna spread. But the inverse is also true. So I know that at this point in my life, I don't expect anything to make me happy because it doesn't. It's only temporary dopamine and serotonin releases. It's just like doing drugs. But if you know how to make yourself happy through doing deep inner work, shadow work, meditation, breath work, then you could bring that energy to anywhere. And what I could tell you is pretty much everywhere I go, it's always like a party, like I just bring my vibes. I know like that brings up everyone and it's always a good time. Like I'm rarely in situations where I'm like, this is whack, this is boring. It's because I know that we are all connected individuals and whether we think we're empathetic or not, we all pick up on those vibes. So just like
Yep.
a low vibe person could lower the culture in a company, a high vibe person could absolutely bring it up. And in addition to my coaching and product skills, I do believe the biggest asset I do bring in is just energetically. I could just raise the energy into any company that I go into.
No, and everybody needs every good company needs a vibes hire. On it's like a cliche, but it's like people tend to meet in the middle a little bit with their frequencies because like and it's for sure in relationships and it's like business is just a bunch of relationships all intermingled and so like no I totally hear you on that of like trying to just stay positive like definitely helps long term kind of just thinking through yeah just like the vibes in the industry because again the cannabis industry as a whole it's a capital's a little bit tight profit margins are normalizing they're not as fat as they used to be but I guess just like how do you how would you think through kind of just the mindset of breaking into the cannabis industry? I know we had talked a little bit off camera, but kind of because everybody asks me too, like they like when they hear I'm in the cannabis industry, like, well, that's awesome. Like I like cannabis, like I would like to be in this industry, and I'm like, to me, it's kind of like every other industry at this point. But I love it because I think of it as like the tech boom, and like I was too young for the internet and serving all of the companies that like came on the backside of the internet, which was a ton of them. Like e-commerce wasn't a thing in the 90s, and now it's everybody just uses it. And so I guess like from that perspective, the cannabis industry is growing. It's exciting, but it's still like a normal industry with its own issues. And so I guess just how would you talk through somebody who wanted to break into the industry or learn more about the industry?
Yeah, a very good question. So my first question would be, I would ask them, why do you want to get into the industry and understand their intention first? I think like the people that ask you, most of the people when I tell them I'm in the cannabis industry, they all think like we're making money hand over fist. They're like, wow, wow, you guys just must be printing money, right? So if someone tells me like they think like, they could like pump and dump or just do something fast in the industry, then I will tell them like you're you're gonna get chewed up and spit out in this industry like within 12 months. Now, if they have like a story like their mom survived cancer or they nurse themselves back to health with cannabis and they have like this strong connection to the plant and they're willing to sacrifice, in order to normalize and destigmatize the plant. And I'm like, dude, you're going to get so many opportunities to do that in this industry. So for me, it's not so much like, scaring people away or trying to recruit people, but it just goes back to like, what is it that you really want to do? If it's to make money, yes, there are many other industries where it's easier to make money. But if you want to make a difference, like a real tangible difference in the world, and you're willing to, I don't even want to say sacrifice for the ups and downs because I believe like every down moment is just an opportunity to learn. So the framework of life that I live in is I either win or I learn. So I'm winning all the time or I'm learning all the time. There's never any stress, never any anxiety, never any like, oh shit, did I make the wrong decision? Because all of it is just every whether it's a yes, whether it's a no, whether it's good news, whether it's bad news, all it is just feeding me with more experiences in life that allow me to be a more whole, complete human being. And I know that based on the meditations that I do is that, I'm not a toxically optimistic, happy guy. Like if I see
Yeah.
someone suffering or, like something is happening, like I'm not like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna meditate into, like this like high frequency area. It's like, no, there's like real life going on. But every single time I have a challenge, I could look at that challenge as a problem and it will feel like a problem, or I could look at that challenge as a gift of evolution to make me a better person. So to me, if you can adopt that framework of thinking, then any industry and any situation will be the best situation that you're in, the situation that's for your highest good, because you get to extrapolate the positive meaning from it.
No, that's I love chatting with you because you do just you bring it back. You explain complex things in very logical ways or kind of emotional things in logical ways. But a question I had, Sabo, kind of switching gears kind of back to just like these growing cannabis companies and kind of the mindset to avoid burnout, or like how do you balance being feeling content while also trying to build this business, build this team, bring in new clients, new products? Because it's like I feel like, and I'll just speak for myself. It's like I need like a little bit of like motivation. So I feel like if I feel content, like I fight that feeling because it's like that's when you'll get complacent. And so I'm always like, no, fuck that contentness. Like, just stay hungry. So, but I also know, like, to your point, I don't want to get to the end of my career and be like, that was a miserable success, like a string of miserable wins, you know? So it's like, that's my question. Like, how do you kind of balance contentness without being complacent? And as we're trying to grow these businesses,
Yeah. Yeah, great question. So, I look at life in different phases. So I don't think there's like one answer that applies to everyone because I feel like when you're in your 20s and you don't have like a family or anything to tie you down, you should be hustling, you should be grinding, you should be like pushing yourself to see what your limits are. Now, when you have a family, when you have other things going on in your life, like if you keep pushing yourself that hard, you might not be the best dad or the best husband or wife or whoever to your significant other, right? So there's other things that you need to start thinking about. And I would say that, like I often talk about the scarcity mindset and even saying, I'm hungry. I don't want to lose my edge. I don't want to lose my hunger. That is a scarcity mindset. That means
right?
that I am less
100%.
than and I need to keep this thing to be
Yeah.
here. Right. So the way I look at therapy versus the way I look at coaching is you go to a therapist when you're less than zero. You're kind of like in the negative, and the therapist gets you to zero. And then the coach gets you from zero to 100 or 1,000, right? So I believe like I need to hustle, I need to grind, I need to do this, I need to be a billionaire. Anytime I need is part of the equation. That's scarcity mindset. Okay. And so the way I like to explain it, and I'm going to get a little metaphysical here. So
No, I
hopefully I don't lose
appreciate that.
anyone.
That's like a free lesson. So yeah, go for it.
Okay. So everything that I share from a metaphysical perspective, I would say is not some sort of theory in my mind. And what I mean by that is I have like a lived experience of experiencing these things without like DMT or psilocybin or any other thing that may augment my consciousness. And so I'm not saying what I'm saying is the absolute truth for everyone. I'm just saying this is what I
Yeah.
have experienced. And so what I experienced in my meditation was that every single living conscious being, frog, bee, you, me, everyone listening, we are whole and complete. Whole and complete. There is nothing lacking in us. And what I mean by whole and complete is all that is, the universe cannot be all that is without you, me, and everyone listening. So we're like these individualistic puzzle pieces that make up the totality of the universe. Now, we all want to make a certain impact in our life, a positive impact in the world. And so, what was shown to me in my deep meditation was all the impact that we already will have has already been created. And this goes back to the everything, everywhere, all at once concept, where everything that has ever happened, everything that will ever happen, all happening simultaneously in the present moment across infinite parallel realities. I know that's a mouthful, but you don't need to understand that to understand what I'm saying. So,
Yep.
if we go back to this concept, it's that when we are overly focused on external things and not on the internal, like there's a lot of this like I need to prove to this person I could do it. I need to prove to that person. But if you truly
Yeah.
believe you are a whole and complete person and you do the things that are in alignment with what your soul and spirit wants, then all the impact that you're having actually gets revealed to you. So all the impact that you already have has already been created, everything, everywhere, all at once. But when you follow your true purpose in life, like maybe for you, it's accounting. Maybe it's for me, for it's designing vaporizers. So as I design vaporizers, the impact that I've already have is then a revelation of that impact. So that impact is revealed to me, but that impact was already there. And the way that I experience it is by doing things that are in alignment with my spirit. And so having experienced that and living my life this way of doing things that are in deep alignment with me, like this new job that I took is really deep in alignment with me because they want They want differentiated products. They want safe products. They want things that, like, when people utilize them, they'll be like, wow, this is brand new, you know? And because all those things are in alignment for me, like showing up for work and doing all this, it doesn't feel like work. There is no burnout and there is no, I have to prove myself to this person or that person because I know all the impact I've had is just has already been there because I exist. And by doing what I love is a revelation of that impact. And this is a completely different way of thinking from what most people think, because most people
Yeah.
are like, yeah, I don't want to lose my edge. I got to keep doing this. I got to keep impressing daddy. I need to keep impressing my boss. I need to keep impressing my investors. And no, you don't. They invested in you because they believe in you. They
Oh
hired you
man.
because they believe in
Yeah.
you, you know, and then you just got to go do your thing. And I would argue that it's all the self-doubt, the wondering what your boss is thinking or what the investors is thinking, which is preventing you from accessing your higher levels of consciousness, the intuition, the epiphanies, the insights, the things that actually make a difference when it comes to business. Because if business had a tried and true model to follow, then everyone that has an MBA would have a successful business. But whether you have an MBA or not, whether you are VC backed or not, 4 out of 5 companies, you know, go bankrupt within 3 to 5 years. I can't remember the exact stat, but it's somewhere
100%. Yeah,
around there.
exactly. It's not easy.
Yeah, so to me, it's not about like the best practices or like what your friend is doing that's right. It's all about like how are you showing up to work? I hate to use this word again. Are you aligned with what you're doing? And if you are in alignment with what you're doing, your potentiality will be expressed at a very high level and then revealing the impact that we've already have. So if there's one thing I want everyone to take away from listening is that you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You are lovable. You are worthy of anything that you desire. And the second you start realizing that and start functioning from a place of abundance as opposed to scarcity, then you'll start making better decisions for your life. So instead of making decisions to survive, you make decisions where you thrive. And for me, I know it's very easy for me to say these things or for anyone to say these things, but I've been around a lot of coaches, I've been around a lot of spiritual gurus. And what I could tell you is it's easy for people to say these things. So when you listen to people that sound like me, that say the things like me, go look at how they live their lives and then use that as a barometer. And what I could tell you is anyone that's seen the way that I live, I'm very consistent with what I say. I'm very consistent with the way that I show up. And it's not like some show. It's not some like woo woo concept that I like talking about. It's how I live my life every day. And the people that have followed the way that I live have also lived this life as well. And that's what I wish for everyone is to be successful, to be abundant without sacrificing their time, their health, and their relationships in order to do so.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I also like the scarcity kind of mindset and like, all right, am I coming from a place of abundance or a place of scarcity? Like how am I because your decisions are worse when they're coming from a place of like fear. It's like, no, you want to kind of make decisions from some place of like abundance or confidence. And it's fascinating too, because like in the startup space that is the cannabis industry, you talk to a lot of founders and everything, and it's like, so, stereotypically everybody thinks the founder is the most confident person, and it's like in my experience, like, and I'm right there with them. It's like we're like the most insecure people in the room. We're trying to prove it to this, prove it to ourselves, prove it to our past, prove it to where we came from. It's like, all right, just let's try to just be here and just do it because we like to do it. Um, kind of switching gears a little bit because I know you did bring up the 3 win and the product side of the kind of just the cannabis industry. You've seen vaporizers kind of tech change a lot over the years, and so I guess just what is the current landscape in vape tech and like what are people dealing with and kind of where do you see like the ways to improve?
Yeah. So
Not trying to
I
steal your secret sauce. I know this is
no,
like
no,
what you
no,
do.
totally, totally. I'm just laughing because this is both my favorite question to answer and then also like one of the most challenging because there's so much to it. So I would say that, you know, if you just had to ask me to give you a super honest answer, I myself, am not satisfied with the current state of hardware. And I think that's a good answer. You know, you don't want your product designer to be satisfied with the way things
Yeah.
are. They could be safer, they could be smoother, they could give you better flavor, they could be more consistent. So there's a lot of different things that I'm super eager to work on and to improve. But I do believe that, you know, like I've seen a lot of press releases recently for a bunch of different hardware that's coming out that will probably be showcased at MJ BizCon. And man, how do I even say this in a diplomatic way? I guess there isn't. Like none of it impresses me. You know, like there's nothing there that I was like, oh wow, I wish I thought of that. You know, and to me,
Yeah.
you know, I will probably have to be a little bit deeper into my job at 3Win, but I already have something that I believe is not just a evolutionary improvement to what's available right now, but it is a dramatic revolutionary step up from the devices that people are using now. And it's not just like a cool little feature or some sort of NFC or AI built in. It's a completely different medium. And I think that's what's required, which is like everyone's trying to like think of like what's the next best thing and trying to build on a infrastructure that is just really old. You know, it's an old infrastructure. It was borrowed from nicotine, and I believe
Yeah.
that cannabis deserves its own technology. So I guess I don't want to answer your question with a non-answer, but I got a lot of ideas. I guess is a short answer, and I'm really eager to show people what I'm working on because I do believe it solves a lot of challenges that have been inherent in the 510 infrastructure.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Because it is interesting just how it's changed over the years. Like I remember some of the earliest vapes and like even dabbing back in the day. It's like you had to have a torch. There was like sometimes it was just a metal plate. It was just like it was very rudimentary. And then it's like dabs, I feel like now with like the disposable vapes, it's like it's just be it has improved or at least like the use of it has and definitely the like consumers are educated more and so like they're starting to learn that there's more options and I guess kind of on from the consumer education side. I guess what is your take on that from the product side because like I'm old school. I smoke flower but like I like the vapes just for like ease of use and kind of traveling and stuff like that. But I guess how do you think about educating the your consumers on your products and is there like should we be doing more in the cannabis industry around that space? Obviously, we can always do more of everything, but just kind of how do you think through educating consumers around new products?
Yeah, you know, very interesting question as well. And, you know, I think that I'll answer the question with the story, which is, you know, as someone who is highly spiritual, people always want to introduce me to their spiritual friends. And I'm always like, oh, wow, you're into spirituality? Okay, like we get along. And then I started realizing, you know, I did the same thing when it came to cannabis users, like, oh, shit, you smoke weed? Like, we're definitely going to get along. And then I realized, there's not like a like stereotypical spiritual person or stereotypical cannabis user. There's like a really like big variety of users. And when you have a big variety of users, you know, educating is a challenging thing. Like I love learning about distillate, live resin, rosin, fats, waxes, lipids, terpenes, cannabinoids, all of that, you know, but I would say 99% of the people don't really care. They're just like, does it work? Does it get me high? And so I would love to educate people to look at cannabis the same way people look at wine. You know, like it's this thing where like the more you know about it, it's kind of like, you know, like when people have a lot of wine knowledge, I think, you know, like at a party, you know, people kind of circle around the person, listen, but you know, that same isn't afforded to people with a lot of cannabis knowledge. You know, they're just like, look at this stoner talking about like stoner stuff. So I do believe
Yeah.
that if we can all collectively try to educate the people in our lives about the different uses of cannabis and that it's not just an intoxicant or a social lubricant, but it's something that really helps benefit you. And when they talk about cannabis being a gateway drug, I think they're absolutely right, but it's a gateway to higher levels of consciousness. Why do you think it's called getting high? Higher frequencies, higher vibrations. I don't think
Yeah.
like these are by accident, you know? And so being able to teach people how to use it intentionally so they benefit more from it to me me would probably be the best way to educate because it's not just about knowing about the cannabinoid science or, all these intricacies and particulars about cannabis. I'm a very practical, tactical person. So if this improves your life, great. If it doesn't, then don't use it. And so if we could teach people how to utilize cannabis in an intentional way where they benefit from it, I think that's where we should spend the vast majority of our education.
No, that makes a lot of sense because we do take it for granted being in the cannabis industry that our consumers are as educated as we are. And it's like, no, like people drink beer, they don't know how to brew beer. Like we shouldn't expect our consumers to like have this deep of knowledge but it's coming out of prohibition. So it's like got this taboo like I obviously live in Wisconsin, like it's still illegal in Wisconsin. There's no legal medical or adult use cannabis. And so there's like 5 million, 6 million people in Wisconsin that are like uneducated consumers. But at some point, we are going to legalize. And then it's this whole, I'm just thinking of like my parents and my aunties and like their generation. And it's like, there's a whole consumer base that needs to be educated. And so, yeah, just like reminding people like there's other options outside of just alcohol. I think it's a very important thing. Thinking through, and I want to just respect your time and get you out of here in the next little bit, but just two more questions and then
Yeah.
we'll bounce. But thinking through like product design and bringing a product to market, like how do obviously it costs money to do that. It costs capital. There was a lot of capital, when the industry was getting started, 2015, 2020, like there's a good run. Obviously, capital is more tight, so everybody's just a lot more intentional with their decision making and where do they allocate budget of and their limited resources. So I guess just how do those conversations happen between you and the founders or the CEOs and like this is the type of product we're thinking about and then we're going to bring it to market because like resources are constrained. And so yeah, how do you kind of think through the budgeting of bringing a product to market or product design?
Yeah. So, depending on who I'm working with, the answer can vary. There are
Sure.
some people that want my expertise and they just want like a $10,000 a month business, if they can make 10 grand a month and have like do mostly direct to consumer sales and have like a small team, they're happy with that. Then there's people like Three Win, right? They want to go public next year and they have really big ideas of like what they would want to put their money behind. So, there's designing things for like the best possible experience. Then there's designing things so that it gives a good experience. And then there's also really great margins for everyone involved in the business value chain. So when I am designing for broad market acceptance, I put on a completely different hat. Um, it,
Yeah.
it's it's I don't know like what's the best example, but I have heard marketers say like if you try to market to everyone, you talk to no one, So there's a little bit of that when I think about like commercial products that are going to appeal to everyone. But when I'm working with, let's say, a smaller company that wants to just go after like hardcore dabbers and they have like a $1,200 device, like there's like a different type of mentality that goes into that because they're not trying to have like the largest margins. They just want to create like the best product, right? So I just always work with the goals of the people that want me to design things for them, and based on their goals, I'll take a slightly different approach. And of course, I'll always offer in my input, but I like to think I want to fulfill the client's needs and desires. But if I had my druthers, I would just say, hey, let me do whatever I want and give me 6 to 9 months. And whatever I show you, it'll probably be better than what you were thinking about.
No, that makes a lot of sense because there's different business models, but they're all successful. It's like you can have, low volume, high profit margin, low profit margin, high volume. Like there's many different ways to turn a profit in business. And so it's just like meeting them where they're at. And yeah, for sure. Like the connoisseurs are going to want one product, but the masses might want a different product. And there's got to be value along the supply chain or else the product is just not viable. And it's like, we're not going to keep making it. No, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of thinking through just kind of last 2 points. I know you got a couple of animals kind of building your own little farm out there, your hobby farm. So I guess just kind of thinking through the animals, question just popped in my head. A, what's your favorite animal? And then what have they taught you about business, having to take care of your animals? And I come from a dairy
Yeah.
farm background, so that's why I like this question.
Oh, perfect. So just for the people listening, I have two dogs, four cats, two ducks and 12 chickens. And my favorite animal has to be our white pit bull. His name is Casper. And he's actually the whole reason why I'm spiritual. We got him during COVID. I didn't want him. And I told the animal control center or the animal adoption center I didn't want him. And literally something took over my body and had my mouth say, yes, we're going to take that dog. My family was surprised. Everybody was surprised. I was like in the third person watching myself do this and going, why can't I control my mouth? And what I came to realize was that was a pivotal moment in my life. This dog has like done so many things for our family. He's like my spirit animal. His name's Casper. And he's why we have so many other animals because we've built this connection with the animals into like, they're not just our pets. They are these other conscious beings. And yes, they may not have the same analytical skills that we have, but they have a different way of viewing life. And it's beautiful to watch, right? Like when they're hungry, they go do hunger things. When they're tired, they go sleep. And they are really good at staying in alignment. So what I would say is, my animals, whenever I'm stuck in my head, wondering about stuff, stressing about stuff, trying to think my way out of a problem, I just remember animals, they're just being. They're not doing. They're not thinking. And when I get myself into that frame of mind of just being again, the answer just automatically just pops into my head without me having to search for it.
Nice, nice. No, I like that. I like that. Alrighty, just kind of my last question to wrap everything up. What has, because I like to be positive. Like I said, I'm also a fairly optimistic person, but so what has you excited about the future of the cannabis industry? Like obviously we've been at this for a long time, but I still think there's a lot of road to go. I still have states and new markets to open up, but what are you excited about for 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, this may sound weird, but the lack of capital coming into our industry actually made me excited. Not excited that people had to suffer from not raising money, but I do believe that this forced a lot of companies to figure out how to have business models that didn't require more money to come in. And, coming from the tech space and just seeing companies like, I mean, I don't even want to talk about the companies that I worked for, but they were acquired for sums that, in my opinion, were like far too high multiples for our revenue and just kind of thinking like, are we just making stuff up here? So I've had this desire to get back to businesses that are like, yeah, you don't need like 3 years of runway to prove yourself. So I'm super excited about seeing this next generation of owner operators that are coming in with more reasonable business plans. And I guess I have to temper that with like, you know, what I see in every other industry is there's like 3 to 5 huge players that dominate everything. But I'm hoping that cannabis could still have variety. And I'm excited because in California, shout out to David Spradlin of Golden Hour, but there's a dispensary that only specializes in like small boutique farmers like flower, and it's super high end flower. And it's way more expensive than any other place, but they do well because they're serving a clientele that knows that they don't want Walmart weed. And for me, like as someone that has been to a lot of farms, like I'm hesitant to buy from the big brands because I don't know like which supplier they're getting their flower from. So having these more boutique shops that are catered towards certain types of customers versus trying to be everything to everyone, that really excites me.
Awesome, awesome. No, and I agree that like I always joke, it's like the lack of capital, like it's a stressful thing, but it's just forced a lot of good business. It's like people were getting away with a lot of bad business habits. And rightfully so. We were all there. It's like no one's innocent. But now it's everybody's kind of down to earth. So I like the positive spin on the lack of capital. Is like the next generations. It's like they're gonna be really dialed in. And to your point, like the businesses, we have more impact. Awesome. Artie, Sabo, thank you so much for your time and your insight. It's always a pleasure. I could nerd out with you all day, but I'll let you go. So you have a good one, my man. All right.
Hey, thank you so much. And man, it was great. I'm glad that we got to spend an extra hour together. And thank you so much for having me on your show. And I look forward to seeing you at MJ BizCon.
I was just gonna say, so where can people find you? I'll have your email and stuff in the call notes, but is there any way, how do you want people to reach out to you?
Yep, you can reach me at my new email address, sabo at 3wincorp.com. And on the socials, I'm just Seibo Shen, my first name, last name, and that's on like all the social channels. So you could find me there. And if you want to email me, I pretty much answer every single email. I live in a rural area. I need social things to do. So email me with any questions. I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later, bud. Peace.
All right. Take care.